Abraham Lincoln rose to power during rising tensions over slavery in the United States. After his 1860 election, Southern states seceded and formed the Confederacy, leading to the Civil War. Despite challenges, Lincoln opposed slavery's expansion, united the nation, and led the country through one of its most critical and transformative periods in history. Welcome to Reality Flash, where every second is a door to the unexplained. Here, we don't just tell stories, we awaken your curiosity about the mysteries that shape our world. Stay with us, and let the journey redefine time itself. The demand for enslaved people with dark skin in the southern regions increased. As the demand for cotton grew, cotton plantations expanded, and with the expansion of new lands, the demand for slave labor also increased. Importing new slaves from Africa had already been officially prohibited. However, defying that ban, evading naval patrols, risking death penalties, black people were still being brought from Africa by ship. They were brought because this trade was extremely profitable. A person bought in Africa for $50 could be sold in America as a slave for $500. While all this was happening secretly, though not entirely hidden, one man named John Brown, an elderly white man, erupted in open rebellion without concealing his anger and sorrow. For quite some time, some courageous enslaved black people had been escaping from their masters and taking refuge in Canada. Gathering some of them, John Brown seized the arsenal at Harper's Ferry in October 1859. He managed to hold the town for only one day. He was defeated by troops, and the officer who suppressed him would later become a general for the South in the Civil War. This was Robert E. Lee. This short-lived rebellion created intense tension between the northern and southern states of America. The outburst of long-accumulated injustice frightened many white people. Even when injured, John Brown displayed such courage during his trial that even his opponents were impressed by his behavior. He was executed in December of that year. Before his execution, John Brown said that the injustice of a guilty nation for oppressing black people could only be washed away with blood. Later, this indeed came true. The crime would be paid for through the bloodshed of civil war. Whether Douglas won or not would not greatly enhance his fame, but if Lincoln won, it would be a tremendous victory for him. Debates were held in several small towns. Although Douglas won the Senate election that led to these debates, Lincoln gained national recognition through this opportunity. His popularity increased so much that in 1860 he was nominated as the Republican Party's candidate for president. Lincoln was tall and lean, with a somewhat melancholy face. He would stand slightly bent forward with his hands clasped behind him. At first, he appeared awkward, but as he continued speaking, he became lively. His speeches had no dramatic flair or tricks to impress. Instead, he spoke calmly and logically. His natural speaking style was dignified. On the day of John Brown's execution, poet Henry Wadsworth Longfellow wrote in his diary that the seed of conflict had been sown, and its result would be a storm, and that storm was not far away. Among the soldiers who escorted Brown to his execution was John Wilkes Booth, who would later assassinate Lincoln. A famous song about John Brown became popular. John Brown's body lies amouldering in the grave, but his soul goes marching on. You may still hear this song recorded by Paul Robeson. Lincoln did not support John Brown's rebellion, believing that such isolated revolts could not end oppression. However, he strongly condemned the Southern states' efforts to support slavery. The South wanted opposition to slavery to stop and for slavery to be declared legitimate. Lincoln argued that the path of justice must also be the path of strength. Previously moderate, Lincoln was gradually compelled by events to prepare for conflict with the Southern states. In this tense situation came the presidential election of 1860. It was clear that if the Southern slaveholders lost the election, they would take up arms. The Democratic Party split over the issue of slavery. Southern Democrats nominated Breckinridge, while Northern Democrats nominated Douglas. The Republican candidate was uncertain at first. A booklet listing possible candidates in 1859 did not even include Lincoln's name. Many thought Seward or Salmon Chase would be chosen. But defying all expectations, Abraham Lincoln was nominated by a large margin. The party leaders may have thought that this widely acceptable man would follow their guidance if elected. His nomination was celebrated with cannon fire. Soon, such cannon fire would become common as civil war approached. Lincoln did not actively campaign, he stayed in Springfield. A young girl named Grace Bedell wrote to him suggesting he grow a beard to improve his appearance. He followed her advice. When the votes were counted, Lincoln's victory was aided by the split in the Democratic Party. He received 1,866,000 votes, Douglas received 1,377,000, Breckinridge received 850,000. Lincoln, who rose from humble beginnings, was elected president. Immediately, Southern states began preparing to leave the Union. Meetings, militia formations, and fundraising began. Preparations for war started. President Buchanan refused to accept secession but took no action to prevent it. South Carolina first declared secession, followed by Mississippi, Florida, Alabama, Georgia, Louisiana, and Texas. In 1861, they formed a new nation called the Confederate States of America. Their declaration stated that black people were not equal to white people and were naturally subordinate. Later, North Carolina, Tennessee, Arkansas, and Virginia joined them. 11 states dependent on slavery united and entered into civil war against the United States under Lincoln's leadership. Lincoln declared that no state had the legal right to leave the Union without consent and that it was the government's duty to preserve the nation. Though he had once been moderate and willing to compromise, the South's stubbornness hardened his stance. After becoming president, Lincoln formed his cabinet by selecting capable individuals, including former rivals Seward and Chase. Soon after, civil war began with the bombardment of Fort Sumter. Lincoln called for 75,000 troops to suppress the rebellion. More states joined the Confederacy, while others remained divided. Despite personal challenges and criticism, Lincoln remained focused on leadership during the crisis. His presidency would become one of the most difficult in American history. Tested by national crisis, he proved himself with honor. Thank you for watching Reality Flash. If this journey inspired you, be sure to subscribe, click the bell icon, and share your thoughts. Stay curious, and we'll see you in the next adventure.